Welcome to another adventure on Exploring Club, Silly Gooses only.
As we head to Mother Croatia.
Mother Croatia.
So we left MSP. The first leg of the journey was to Chicago, 3.5-hour flight. And this was like afternoon. Because by the time we got to Chicago, it was dark out, I think.
Yeah, yep.
And then from Chicago, we went to Munich.
Munich, yep.
And
that was the longer part of the flight. But
yeah.
I thought it was a good flight.
I got my first, overflight meal.
Yep.
Had a little butter chicken. Best butter chicken I ever had.
Passed out in the Munich airport for a little bit.
Oh, God, that was hard. And then this flight was pretty cool. As you can see, it's a propeller plane.
Yeah. It's a pond hopper.
I was very nervous when we got out of the tarmac and saw that, but it's actually a lot smoother than just a regular small jet, so very cool.
Yep.
Arrived later in Split, got checked into our hotel with a bottle of complimentary wine.
Yep. And also checked out one of the nice restaurants downtown, so
yeah.
It was good timing. I think we just kept kind of going with the vibe before we were about to pass out. We were pretty tired at this point.
Yeah. So again, traveling during shoulder season, so we were, I think, one of 2 parties in that restaurant.
Yep.
So kind of had the pick of the litter on where we wanted to sit and weren't, waiting for a bunch of other tables to be waited on, so that was pretty cool.
And gorgeous view of the Split over our hotel, so one of the best in the city, so one of the reasons we chose the hotel besides a couple others.
Yeah, and rooftop pool and all sorts of stuff. Of course, all that stuff was closed just due to the time of year. But we got into some really bougie hotels for really great prices just because of the time of year. So it was okay not being able to be in the pools.
Yep.
And hot tubs. So
yeah, and a lot of Roman history in the town. A lot of different areas, but Roman, so Diocletian's Palace, and then we went to a market, which is always our favorite part of the trip.
Yeah, just to scope out what kind of meats and produce and all that stuff the locals are grabbing. And then we went back and went down into
the catacombs of Diocletian's Palace. So they're the above and then the below, built up over time like many cities in Europe. But just a gorgeous city overall. Beautiful coastal city, and then had a really nice 3-course meal once we decided finally on a place to eat.
Yeah. And I think we actually were going to go to one of the other national parks this day, and we decided after the travel to hey, we gotta slow this.
It was gonna be a lot, which I'm really happy that we ended up not doing it. So we ended up going to a grocery store, because again, that's another one of our most fun aspects of a trip, kind of checking out how places are different / similar to us, and in most cases better.
Yeah. Yep. So spent the whole day in Split, and then drove to Hotel Olympia,
which is like a giant cruise ship kind of.
Yeah,
the gorgeous views again. I mean,
yeah, cruise ship looking hotel, beautiful. We upgraded to be in the newer kind of part of their development. There were 2 different Olympic.
And if you see a theme, we always like to stay on or by the water.
Yeah.
That's, for us, it's a big plus, regardless of where you're at.
This is the last time lapse that I did with my fancy DJI
that was donated to Vadis.
Yeah, left in the hotel room. I always think, I bet those people thought we were doing some real kinky stuff with the tripod in the bedroom, but it's like, no, I was just taking some time lapses of the water.
Yeah, that was a really cool place. Again, off season. So, again, not a ton of people there, which is great.
No. Yeah.
And then we went and walked into the downtown, which is quite a decent walk away to get some food. Not a ton of restaurants open just from the time of day and the day that we were there, but we were able to find some good food.
Yeah, and seasonally, I think a lot of stuff like this Olympic Sky thing had a water park and an adventure park thing outside, and all of that was closed. But again, we weren't really interested in that. We were just interested in kind of getting to the next point in the journey so that we could go to Kirka the next day.
Yep, and Kirka National Park was all the parks were experiencing a ton of water, so this is a decently flooded Kirka National Park about a week ago. Or a week early, we would not have been able to go there. But I thought it was great because the water was just like right up to everything, so it was wild.
Very out of character. Everything we saw said, you know, a lot of the waterfalls are usually a little dried up. There may be just a trickle by the time you get there.
It was opposite.
In this time of year, and it's like they were bursting at the seams.
Yeah, we were, but super accessible park. We had groups of people with wheelchairs and stuff like that were going through at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you
wooden walkway the entire length.
And then we moved on down the coast southward to Klek, which is not a town most people will ever hear of or know about. Because it was 180 people, 200 people max.
Yeah, very, very small. But again, this is just part of our journey to get closer to one of the things that we really wanted to do, which was the oyster tour. So this drive, I think, was one of the more kind of open. It felt more like a regular U.S. freeway, 4-lane situation.
I thought all driving, just like Iceland, was very easy, honestly, in Croatia. At night, like we were going into Klek and we had no idea where we were going. That was difficult, just because some of the streets are smaller, but the driving itself, generally everywhere, was really nice. It's coastal driving, so again, coastal can be compared to mountain driving, but it was pretty easy coastal driving.
Yeah. So this is when we're coming into Klek at night. We had stopped and gotten pizza because we kind of had gotten it figured out that we were not going to be able to get food anywhere that night or the next morning. We had talked with the Airbnb host, and this Airbnb was actually the second, third, and fourth stories above a market, but they weren't even open.
Yeah, they weren't open. There was nothing really open in the town during this time. Beautiful views again, a theme. Wasn't the easiest to find,
No.
but we ended up finding it and then had a nice stay, and then we're headed down to do some oysters.
Yeah, so we went to Male Stone or Botisare. Philip had actually found this online. This was a really good oyster tour and tasting and all sorts of stuff that they offer, like a package deal. And so we went, and I think the gentleman that gave us the tour said normally the boat that they go out on was it over 100 people?
Yeah, it's usually filled to the brim, and it was just us two that he took us out. So we got a lot of, it was like aromatic liquor that they had made themselves.
Yeah.
That I think I had more of than Holly did. And then
sipping gasoline.
And then took us out to our own little private area. The Molly and Molly Stone area is like the main oyster area out here. So there's different tour groups, but we thought this one was really great. I think I talked with them 6 months prior and kind of booked everything. So they were super accommodating the entire time. He just gave us our own little private tour. It was magical.
We got there a little early because, like I said, there wasn't anything in Klek, so we thought, well, we'll go to this town and get coffee at the restaurant. They hadn't even opened yet, and they were going to make us coffee, and then this guy was like, well, if you guys are ready, you're the only ones on the tour, we can just go out early. So we went out. It was like, I don't even know, 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Drinking and eating oysters, and he made them right there on
breakfast.
the boat. But they were delicious oysters and mussels. I mean, we looked up the prices for the restaurant afterwards.
Holy smokes.
And like the amount we paid for this versus the amount of oysters and other things that we ate was not
mussels.
even comparable. But it was best I've ever had, and kind of got me on an oyster and mussel kick.
So he steamed the mussels right on the boat right in front of us with white wine, and then fed us white wine and bread, and we had more oysters than we could probably.
Yeah, best mussels hands down I've ever had.
Yeah, delicious.
And then we headed off to Vela Luca, which was one of our bigger parts because this is on the island of Korčula. So we had to drive across the island, which was a gorgeous drive. Probably one of the more coastal parts of the drive. Had to take a ferry, different things like that, but just gorgeous area. I mean, that island is an island I could easily spend my days on.
Yeah. So kind of like we do with all our trips, there were parts of the trips where everything leading up to this point was just one night stays, And then this villa we're actually at for 3 nights. So it's a nice slow down point in the trip where we can spend a little bit more time, unpack the bags a little bit more, relax a little bit more, and not have to have such a tight schedule. So we really like that.
And Vela Luca is on the opposite side of the island. Korčula Old Town is actually the birthplace of Marco Polo, or a place where he stayed at some point in time. We'll show that later, but this was like a little less popular part of the island, and honestly it was much more my favorite. We visited both parts, but this was great. We kind of were out on this 1-lane road in these beautiful villas, and it was, I mean, just a magical area.
So Villa Common Blue Airbnb, they're 2 different condos right next to each other, and I think they're 4 different condos stacked on top of each other. And we had first booked the very bottom one, and then they contacted us maybe a few days before the trip and said they were having, I think they said they were having electrical issues and they wanted to put us in the top.
I think just renovations because of off season it looked like at the end of the day, but the top ended up being just great. 1, because you didn't have to do all the stairs, but 2, just a gorgeous view.
Yeah, the vantage point was even better. So then we went into town. I don't even know, maybe 5-minute drive from the villa to actual Vela Luca, and had a great dinner. I had prawns.
Yeah, a lot of seafood. I mean, if you go to places with coasts, even if you're not a big fan of seafood or you're perceived not big a fan of seafood, please try it out. It'll probably change your mind.
Yeah. So we went in each morning to get fresh coffee and pastries at one of the local bakeries. I think one morning we even went to a bar that was making espressos and stuff because it just happened to be open, and it was like, 9 o'clock in the morning.
6 locals smoking in a bar while they make us some espressos.
Yeah.
And here's a big vantage point of the area.
Car. There's our Toyota. Yeah, so we're, if you can see us waving, we're right in the middle. So those 2 condos left and right are these Vela Blue Common. They're on Airbnb, and they did a really great job. They were very nice on helping us. There were some passport things that we needed to ensure that we were where we said we were. He helped us with those things. It was very nice. And just beautiful sunrises and sunsets.
And I think this is when we take the journey in to, is it into Korčula, or is this when we did the wine
this is
situation? So we basically go all the way back across the island. We didn't really feel we had time when we first came in to do that. So we went back, and there was just a little, if you saw that on the left, it was just a bar overhanging a huge cliff drop that has like a little wine bar. Those are pretty common on the coastal areas of these islands. But this is Korčula Old Town, birthplace of Marco Polo, or at least the speculated birthplace of Marco Polo, I guess, so to say. Gorgeous, all these areas, just you can see the different Roman and Venetian influence in all of them. So beautiful churches, catacombs, different museums. I think always my favorite to see these kind of things. I think just the entire landscape that we went through felt very similar to this everywhere we went. So you could see the different influences over time, but a lot of these areas were ruled and re-ruled and ruled by a lot of different people. So you get basically the best of all worlds when it comes to architecture and food.
Yeah. We did do the Marco Polo Center, walked through that. They had a really great kind of tower that you could walk up into, and then we stopped to have the biggest burger I think I've ever seen in my life.
They were actually really good, yeah.
It was delicious, and then stopped and got some snacks. We really like not just markets, but we like
grabbing random snacks.
We like random snacks. See what they got. See if they got some paprika chips. Always on the hunt for some pap chips. And then our last meal we had, this was like lobster ravioli. And then that's when we tried pizza bread, which is basically just garlic butter pizza crust that you get to use to sop up all your sauce and things. So
then got some wine for a bunch of different people, since wine is a huge
olive oil.
Yeah. Yep.
We got olive oil for everybody in the family so that we could have some and they could have some too. And it was wonderful. It was delicious. It did not last long in our house.
No. and then made our way down to Dubrovnik, which was a longer trip, just mainly coastal and ferry, but still easy driving for the most part. Some of the coastal stuff, I mean, you get pretty thin. It's just wild, and I don't know how many shots we have coming up of it, but to see, we don't have any, to see like the houses just kind of off the cliff area, and they park on the top of the cliff, and that's how they get down into their house. It's just, it was a wild thing to look at whilst driving on the coast, which I try not to do too much of, but
yeah, it was very tight. So this is when we came into Dubrovnik, so this is around the
castle.
Yeah.
So this is like Game of Thrones is a big part of. So this is King's Landing in Game of Thrones. So that was their big sell, and you see that a lot in a lot of places we went to. But taking the tram up gave us a gorgeous part and view of the city right before it started pouring rain.
Yeah.
We were like by pouring, I mean flooding the city.
Yeah, we were one of the last people to come up and last to go down, and then it was just absolutely pouring, so we grabbed a taxi back to the parking garage because it was just, cats and dogs. Got checked into, this was probably the bougiest hotel that we stayed at. Rixos is, I can't remember, we looked it up, I want to say it was like $600 a night on
regular season,
but I don't think it was over $200 for us to stay there. And it was, I mean, they gave us champagne when we got there, and it was real, but they turned down with chocolates. It was wonderful. And then we had a balcony facing the water, which will have some good shots in the morning. Went to hotel restaurant and had sushi.
Yeah, it was a sushi restaurant. They had different restaurants, but that was the sushi one.
Yep. Got a little room service of a dessert delivered, and then this was what we woke up to. It was just absolutely gorgeous.
And this is our last day in Croatia. We're gonna be going and getting on a flight pretty soon. But yeah, it was a beautiful stay. Yeah, it rained a lot in Dubrovnik, which is, I mean, ultimately I think we wanted to explore Old Town, but I think we were also okay with just relaxing and taking in the niceties of the hotel. But yeah, the water was pouring through the streets, and it's
flooding.
It's like layered like steps, so like it was just, you could see it going down like a wash.
This is their, of course, concierge breakfast, which is one of my favorite things about Europe.
Always.
Yeah, I think it's really important when we make our itineraries to understand that even though we make the itinerary and have everything laid out, that once we get there, if we have a change of plans, if we want to shave some things off, there's like no love loss.
No.
And I think this trip was like a great example of that. Like, would we have wanted to see Old Town? Did we want to go to that other national park? Yes. Was the trip amazing? Yes.
Yep.
So it's fine.
Yep. And then we head to Zagreb. So Dubrovnik flight to Zagreb, and then Zagreb to Amsterdam. Anything in and out of Croatia, you are more than likely going through Zagreb, though Split is a major airport as well.
Yeah. Then we flew KLM to finish out the flight to Amsterdam and had the best egg sandwich of my life. It's like puree egg salad.
If we could be KLM members, Holly would be that solely because of that.
Just because the egg sandwich.
And we got to Amsterdam, and in true Amsterdam style, we started out with staying at a place called the Botel. And we definitely had to stay in one of the letters on top of Botel.
Yeah, I think this feels like it's part of Willy Wonka's world or something like that.
We found unique places, and it wasn't that expensive because it's not in downtown. It was on the port area that's been entirely redone, much like a lot of ports in a lot of cities. So definitely would be the kinky situation we discussed earlier. Handcuffs on the bed, huge shower for people to share together.
Yeah, there were 3 toilets. I don't know if you counted that. 3 toilets in the bathroom.
It was really great. And then under, like where other people stay, besides the letters, is basically like a hostel.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yep.
These are the only real rooms you can kind of rent that are not hostel rooms.
Yeah.
But yeah, we chose the O and had a good night.
So as you can see, the restaurant that we ate at, you can actually see Botel from the restaurant. So still very close to us, walking distance. And then there was I don't think it was a Eurospar, but there was a a grocery store right
There's a
next
couple
door,
grocery
too.
stores, yeah. I mean, it was definitely a very nice redone port area. I'm always very impressed by how a lot of areas are redoing their ports. I mean, ports are generally speaking one of the dingier parts of town, and in most locations, when they're redone well, are now one of the most up-and-coming areas for younger people.
Yeah, yep.
We got some baked goods.
Oh, I'm going to be chasing that little pastry as well. That was like cheese and spinach pastry, and I talk about it often.
Talk about it often. The one other thing that, and I think we'll be getting on the barge, but it was just wild to see, like, either coming or leaving from work, getting on the ships and everybody on the bikes, because everybody talks about Amsterdam and bikes, but until you get there, you truly do not know the situation with the bikes. It is mostly bikes, which is fun. It was a beautiful town. Couldn't get more picturesque wherever you walk. Just as far as, like I expressed to Holly of the places I've been, like a town as nice of a town as far as you keep going out and out and out, you just don't see that anywhere, and Amsterdam is that.
Yeah, it's like they planned well. Yeah, when we were at the motel, you could see the ferry would pull in and bikes would just be swarming, like they knew exactly what the schedule was, and it would be like 200 bikes would arrive. And 100 would get off,
and like right at the end, right before one, like the thing even leaves, they just get right on. But yeah, we explored Amsterdam. It's something I think we both have had on our list. I think I'd flown through there before a couple times, but never really got to explore it. Really nice food. If you are into marijuana, you can get it in every damn place you want.
Easier than getting a cup of soda.
Yeah, I mean, you could find it anywhere. We took a canal cruise, which was really nice. I would say lower your expectations from a site perspective, just because of, how many people are there and things like that.
Yeah.
But it was still very nice. I would suggest it to anyone still getting out on the canals. And then, of course, walked through the different areas. Had to at least go by the red light districts, though we're not able to put that up here. I did get flicked off by some people, but for putting a videotape up. But yeah, I thought it was really enjoyable, and I think a couple days in Amsterdam, a day and a half, basically, was probably enough.
Yeah, and the whole reason that we even went was
because we didn't want to have a huge layover. Because you're usually looking at like a 10 to 12 hour layover somewhere either way, so we kind of cut the layover out.
Yeah, it's like when we initially planned the trip, it looked like our coming home was going to work out pretty easy, where it was only 5 to 6 hours, and then when we went to actually book, that flight was no longer available.
No, and it was like Zurich, well, what if we just Amsterdam.
Stayed? Yeah.
Yeah, and you'd have a 10 to 12 hour layover, so it worked out really well. I thought all the flights were great. I mean, it was a longer trip, definitely Holly's longest, but I thought ultimately great.
Yeah, it was wonderful. So adventure details will be on the website and available here.
And remember, Silly Gooses only.